Shlama Amkhon. This video is going to be about how to set up Syriac on your computer, how to get Syriac keyboards going, both in terms of doing the Syriac font, but also the SPL transliteration, which I use a lot. So let's start with Syriac. If you already have languages, you'll probably have a language bar here, or it might even be one of those floaters that you can have up here. But if you don't, you're going to go over to your search. You can search language, and language settings will open up this screen. So you'll add a language. I removed my Syriac so I could add it for you. Type the language name, Syriac. And you have Surya Syriac right there. Click next. And supplemental fonts, install. And when you go to Syriac, you can go to options, and I highly recommend adding a keyboard, and the keyboard you want to add is Syriac Phonetic. The reason is, if you're using just the Syriac keyboard, so this is here already, yep, cool. If you open up a place to write, and you've got traditional Syriac, I'm going to hit A, S, D, F. So you see, you would have to memorize Sheen as in your A, or if you hit F, you'd get a Beth, because this follows the Arabic layout. However, when you get the phonetic, so Syriac phonetic keyboard, A, S, D, F, which is the Jamal of Karshuni. G, H, J for Tayet, K, L, and the apostrophe, the semicolon is a chet. So pretty much like English, if you're thinking, you know, awun, d, b, sh, so there I had to go for a V for a sheen, a little weird. Ma, yeah. Generally, I think that with a little bit of practice, you don't need a reference keyboard chart for Syriac phonetic, and we'll get into how to use this in a second. So what I do, once I add Syriac phonetic, because I'm not going to use the Arabic, I remove the Arabic. And now we have Syriac, and the Syriac keyboard that will show up is Syriac phonetic. So I'll do that one more time, just so you can see it. In general, you can go to Start button, Settings, Time and Language, Language, and then Add Language. Or you can just type in the word language into your search and go to Language Settings. Either way works. You can go Start button, that means Settings, Settings, and then click on it, pick Time and Language, or you can just type in language and go here. Add Language, Syriac, next, install. Then you go to your options, add keyboard, Syriac phonetic. Now I have Syriac phonetic. I can get rid of Syriac and go back. Now Syriac's there, and I'll have usually this come up if it's the first time I'm adding a language, or if this already exists on my computer, my selector here, then it'll be added to it. If you've changed your selector, you've changed the settings on it, well, you know, that's according to the settings you've set. The default is for it to appear here. Now we're going to go to the next item, which is getting your fonts. Now native to Word, thanks to George Kiraz and setting up Syriac, is the Estrangala Edessa font. So I'm going to blow it up, which is It's a very beautiful font. However, you're going to want other fonts. So for that, and this is going to be linked, you're going to want to go to the Melto fonts. You can bethmardutho.org/Melto, download the zip file with a bunch of fonts, and you're great. Once you download the fonts in that zip file, if you need help, then just look up how to get fonts. There's also a little helper link here that tells you how to do it. And also some configuring Syriac, and it looks, yeah, my advice is better for Windows 10 and 11. That's how you would set up Syriac. You'd add your fonts. So I'm going to switch to a font that I find nice and comfortable. Syriac Adiabin, it's my favorite. Sometimes you can search for Unicode fonts, and pick things like Sarhadun, which is also very beautiful. I like Adiabin. It's kind of a elegant and slim font. I like how much text it condenses. So one of the things that comes along with this is you want to get a Syriac keyboard layout. When you're doing Syriac, you can use the one that's in your computer. So that's if you just strike the keys. That's if you hit Shift. The other thing that's important to know is your grammatical Alt, which is usually the Alt key on your right hand, depending on how you have your keyboard set up, but I believe that generally works. So your Eastern vowels are going to be going on your left hand mostly. So I'm going to write, for instance, Beth, Ptacha, that was a Shift Z. So I typed in B for Beth, Shift Z. Again, this is all for Syriac phonetic. Beth Skapa is right next to it, Shift X. Be Zlama Pshika, the short Zlama, Shift C. And then we go to V and B. It's cool because if you think of Beth with a dot, it can be V, right? So Shift V puts the dot underneath, and Beth Shift B puts a dot on top, right? And that's V and B. Makes sense. And then that long E sound is in, which is really smartly laid out because it doesn't let you shift it, mix it up with the C. So the C is the short, and then the end is the long. That's cool. Of course, anytime you're using Bo, you're going to use Shift B, like we did with Beth with the dot on top, with the Qushaya. And anytime you're using Bu, use the Rukacha Qushaya. V and B are the Rukacha and Qushaya. They are not Nuqzat Puchama. Nuqzat Puchama are like this. So that was Shift P, as in Peter. That's a Nuqzat Puchama. Under it, the semicolon, is the lowered Nuqzat Puchama. So if you want to write the word Katil in Nuqzat Puchama, right, you would go Ka, and it's going to be on top, Til. If you want to write the word Thau, he wrote, that is a Nuqzat Puchama. I've oftentimes seen people mess these up, and it really messes up files because the Nuqzat Puchama are not as stable as these are, and with good reason. This is a Nuqzat Puchama, this isn't. This is really why you want to find and follow a layout. So you really need to know the keyboard setups on it. And for this, you're going to go to where you downloaded the Melto fonts from the link below. You're going to open up the main folder. So that's going to give you, right, your zip folder here. You open up the main folder. You can go to your Melto fonts. This is your installer. So you're going to use that to install. But when you open up here, the package of the fonts along with the license, click on Melto Guide. And that's cool. It's the setup guide. And tons of neat information. You can see the fonts. So that's a neat way to figure out which fonts you really like. And there's one of my favorite ones, and it's from the Syrian press in Mosul, derived from type that goes back to Drugulen in 1880. Cool. It's also this one, which is pretty cool. But I like. So your base characters. So here, let's blow this up a bit. So, like I said, there's the. Let's more space there. So this is the one that I did not install. This is the one that automatically installs first, and I told you to pick Phonetic here. Unless you know Arabic and you're quicker in Arabic, then do this. If you're quicker in English and a QWERTY keyboard, then use this. And marks and vowels. So as it explains, there's Shift, then there's Alt Control. In my keyboard, when I put the Alt on my right hand, it works as an Alt grammatical. I'm not sure if that's universal. If your right hand Alt doesn't do what Alt grammatical says it does, then do try Alt Control. So first Alt, then Control. But mine works. But I've done so much language stuff on it, I don't know if at some point I did something that makes that happen. So when you hit Shift, you get, like I showed, ptacha, skapa, short E, short zlama, the dot on the bottom for rukacha, for soft, the dot on top for kushaya, the long E, and then this is kind of an off-centered dot at the bottom. I don't usually use it. This is a comma in the eastern direction. I don't really use it. And then you've got your Western vowels, and Western vowels can go above or below. So A, S, D, F, G are below, Q, W, E, R, T are on top. So ptacha, skapa, the E, the khwasa. So that part's pretty explanatory. Where I was emphasizing, not getting confused, is between your usage of the dot on top and the dot below. This is nuqsat pukhama, these two. The other one that's important is when you're writing in Syriac. This is a mistake I see a lot of times, especially by Easterners, and it drives me crazy. They end up using all sorts of stuff to do the telqana. So like if they have, so now I'm going to hit Shift I, that's what I hit, Shift I, and it pluralized, I'm going to say the word mysteries, raze, raze. But on the alep, I need a telqana. So I do a control, I'm sorry, an alt, or alt control, alt U. So I put in my alep, I hit my, I have grammatical alt, and I hit U. Now I have telqana. It is not a bar underneath it in Eastern. That looks really weird in Eastern, and every time I see that, I realize that whoever typed up this file did not take the time to read through the instruction manual and probably has other mistakes in how they coded this, and I'm gonna have to sit through and fix these, and that's just annoying. So remember, read through the manual. Kira is pretty good at laying all this stuff out. And then Now I'm going to go Shift I to make it plural. It's kind of cool that it's I, Raza, Raze, right? Or man, Alab. Let's put our Talqana on. Whoop. So that K, that's also important, the Shift K. We do that a lot in Eastern. So she wrote, right? What does that mean? Is that kithbith? Is that ktaut? Or is it kithbath? She wrote. If it's kithbath, I'm going to hit a Control K right after my T. So I'm going to write Control, Shift, K, Shift K, Shift K. And I get the two Nokzapuchama underneath. Shift H, you see right here, Shift H. We do that a lot, and I'd say it's pretty necessary for the word Jesus. So Shift H, and I'm going to go Shift V to make it an E. So Shift O to make it an O, and then the I, E sharp. Usually in Eastern, so if you look up to a key right between backspace and enter with the vertical bar and the kind of slanted bar above it, if you just hit it once, you get that slanted version of it. Usually in Eastern, I hit Shift and get it straight up and down. And that's, I'm talking about this key. There are others, they are important, and you can find them. Here there's this nice thing of base characters, punctuation marks. So it's telling you how to use them. Really pay attention to diacritical marks. He really explains it well. Like he explains, I already gave this out, how the East Syriac ones are. There's the West Syriac ones, Rukacha Ushaya. So he tells you what he means to be Rukacha Ushaya. And you know, don't force it. This isn't a drawing program with little pictures for you. They're grammatical units. They're set into the font. And it's really annoying when you don't use it right, because it has to do also with, there's a very intelligent priority structure to how all this meshes, because Syriac is trying to take everything you're putting into your computer and translate it without having giant hanging letters. And what I mean by that is, if you do the wrong mark and someone downloads or cuts and pastes what you wrote for them, or you yourself, as you're trying to change fonts and do some, you know, get something ready for publishing or printing, or just simply moving things around as you're getting ready, all of a sudden you'll notice something like this, right? Why? Because, I mean, these are all vowels, but especially stuff like that, Nugzit Puchama, like these symbols, they have a different priority structure in the way this is set up. The idea that you're going to first write your letter, then you're going to write your vowel, then you're going to put whether there's something else there. It's set up to stack in a way that it can be predictable, and And to do that, they had to program it according to what somebody who's thinking grammatically is going to do, as long as he recognizes each one of those grammatically. And again, this is something that even, I mean, this is like explicit here. I mean, it tells you to, right here, right? You have to follow the sequences. And he has sequences for putting noon separate, and it's really nicely laid out. Actually read it. So siame, there, single dots, historical dots, so things that show up in manuscripts, things that are modern, squiggles and such that we put in there, liturgical symbols, the Eid Syriac Alap, I showed you that. And then Garshuni, which is writing Arabic and Syriac, which is also used oftentimes for transliterating Syriac. In West Syriac, we have our way of doing it. I really actually like the way that it's done in East Syriac. The Heraclean symbols, breaking ligatures, tons of good information. So that should cover you for typing in Syriac. I think, is there something else I'm missing? I don't think so. If I missed anything, please put it in the comments below. Go download it, set it up. I know he also has instructions on how to do it for Mac, and I'll also have a video on how to do transliterated Syriac. But I hope this was helpful, and let me know if there are any questions. Go to Beth Marduto, go to the links I have, follow the guide that's given with the fonts. That's the guide you want to use. I mean, I've looked at other guides that, even as it's like, actually it was the first thing that came up when I tried to look for Milto keyboard sets, and even that person had screwed up basic Syriac grammar. Kiraz knows his Syriac grammar, he knows what he's doing with this, and it should be followed so that we are consistent and actual sensible. And if you're typing something, I'm assuming you want it to be rather stable. So thank you, God bless, and goodbye.